What is going on, guys and girls? It's Ghost Robo, and today we are talking about Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, just announced, just unveiled by Ubisoft. After a week of swirling rumors, we now have an official piece of artwork, an official box art, and an official character and official location. Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag stars Edward Kenway, the father of Haytham, grandfather of Connor, and will take place in the Caribbean islands and seas. Now, in a moment here, we're going to switch to some Assassin's Creed 2 gameplay, because that was my favorite pinnacle of the series, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But right now, focusing on this newly announced game, I'm a bit worried. I'm really quite concerned and quite dismayed by this announcement, not only for this year and this game itself, but for the franchise as a whole, and we will now delve into those ways. First off, the title. I assumed that Ubisoft would bring out a side story this year, and I know there were some plot restrictions with Connor's character, blah, 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 but not only does this game jump back in the timeline, which is a little strange since every subsequent Assassin's Creed has previously moved forward, but it also is a numbered sequel with a subtitle. One, I think the subtitle is so generic and useless, but two, it makes me concerned that it's fine if you're going to annualize a franchise, if you really want to delve into every aspect of the lore and kind of flush it out into as far of reaches as you want to take it. But, numbered games are supposed to hold significant importance. And if we compare it to other franchises, and I'll go into this more later, even Dead Space, Uncharted, Mass Effect, there's a number of years between their numbered sequels. And granted, those games didn't have side stories, really. But if they did, you would imagine that it would have fallen like Brotherhood and Revelations, where, you take a couple year gap. And it has me a bit worried that they're already pushing out Assassin's Creed 4. Does that mean in 2014 we get 5, and 2015 we get 6, and this thing just becomes Final Fantasy before we know it? I don't know. But I'm concerned by the fact that they're so soon moving forward, on the current gen consoles, and assumedly a very similar engine and no real gap in, hey, let's see how we can evolve this franchise in this game. Now, my other big concern comes from the location. I loved the sea stuff in Assassin's Creed 3. I loved the sailing stuff. I thought that was really great. Now, I don't know how that holds up across a 15 to 20 hour game. It's very fun in a couple of missions, but if you're doing it for a huge chunk of time, I don't know how that will be. And the islands are where I really, really get kind of lot of worry, because my biggest problem with Assassin's Creed 3 was that the cities and buildings were very mundane and plain. There was not a whole lot of verticality. There was not a whole lot of variety. I know they had to stay true to the time period. That's fine, but that doesn't make it okay that the actual act of climbing and maneuvering around was nowhere near as fun as it had been in previous Assassin's Creed. And we'll jump back to 2 for a quick second here. And the reason I love 2 is because it was just had everything going for it. Story, mystery, intrigue, cool climbing, epic buildings, great assassinations, a very fun character. Ezio was like a cool guy to be. I think when it's more focused, I think that's better. Assassin's Creed 3 we have bigger battles, and it's a bigger scale, and you're affecting everything. You're an agent of change. But in Assassin's Creed 2, you were the freaking Grim Reaper. You were taking guys down all in your own hands, and it was really great. And I know that they've tried to introduce so many secondary and tertiary mechanics of having your own team of assassins. They had the tower defense stuff in Revelations. They have, the collecting of pelts and animals in Assassin's Creed 3, and that stuff's all fine and good. But if your core game is suffering and your core game is not evolving, I don't know what piling on checklists of features does for you. And it comes down to a problem with the mechanics, I think, of Assassin's Creed. And I'm worried that these Caribbean islands are going to have low-lying buildings with not a lot of verticality, and no glorious landmarks to explore. You think about Assassin's Creed 2, the Colosseum and some of the churches and finding those glyphs, and the act of actual climbing around was probably for me more enjoyable than pursuing targets or fighting guys, or even though the combat was so good at that point. And I think it's because Assassin's Creed, and I've thought a lot about this, of why I did not like 3 and why it fell so flat for me. And I think a lot of Assassin's Creed owes its success to its environment, to its feel, and to its ability to make you want to be the character. Like, who doesn't want to be Ezio? Crazy badass assassin, going through Rome, taking things into his own hands, and saving the world at the same time. That's really awesome. And, back then the story actually was going somewhere and didn't end with a freaking thud, but beside the point, I don't think that the actual physical mechanical act of climbing the buildings and fighting the guys is as fun as people think. I think it has much more to do with the theme, with the surrounding elements, with the visual, visual beauty that those games had as well as just like the whole allure of like, dang, I'm climbing these huge buildings, I'm this awesome assassin, I'm going someplace, I'm so crazy, I'm sneaking around, I'm pursuing this target. There was many more focused missions back then, many more exploratory, just climb around and see what you could find, and a desire to really get to the highest point or see this cool place. Or feathers were not the greatest collection item, but that's one of the only games. Assassin's Creed 2 is one of the only games I've gotten 1,000 achievement points on, because I genuinely wanted to explore that environment from point A to point Z and everywhere in between. And Assassin's Creed 3 did not do that. It was frankly a boring environment. And I think by expanding the game to a broader scope, they've taken away from what made it quite special. And, if you compare Assassin's Creed to Dead Space, I was trying to, just reason in my own mind, why did I like Dead Space 3 so much more than Assassin's Creed 3? Because Dead Space 3 really is a lot more of the same. There's some new mechanics, there's co-op, the story is kind of cool. But I think it's because the mechanics of a game like Dead Space 3 are inherently fun. It is fun to shoot necromorphs. It is fun to run around and try to get a good vantage point and then take them down, then evade and cut off their limb. Like, the actual act of doing it is fun. I don't really think that the actual moment-to-moment actions in Assassin's Creed are that fun. I think that by surrounding them with so many delicious layers of frosting, it becomes a joy. And that's why Assassin's Creed 2 was so cool. And even Brotherhood, and a little bit less with the Revelations, and then a huge drop-off with Assassin's Creed 3. I think when you strip away a lot of those, I guess you could call them window dressings, but really they are just delicious frosting, delicious extra yumminess stapled on top of the mechanics. It becomes a really fantastic game. Assassin's Creed 2, 10 out of 10. But I think when you take away a lot of the cool environment, when you take away the mystery, the intrigue, sort of this feeling of this very sly and kind of sinister assassin. Ezio is a darker character than Connor. As much as they try to play up these dark themes in Assassin's Creed 3 and, Native Americans and who's the real bad guy, I personally could care less about Connor. I could care less about who he is. I thought he was annoying, and there was really no investment. I didn't see myself wanting to be Connor. I think from the very beginning, Altair's hood was like a freaking sexy symbol of that series, and everybody somehow wanted it. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about that beaked hood, but it looks good. It makes you feel like you're a freaking, assassin Batman, and it's awesome. And I think Ezio followed that line a lot more, and even more so because he had more of a personality. He had, armor and capes, and just felt like an evolution of that kind of Batman assassin type character. And I think Connor isn't in many ways. I didn't really feel any sense of empowerment being him. I felt like you were kind of reacting to a lot of external situations, and kind of just a dude trying to make something happen, as opposed to the dude, like I said, the Grim Reaper bringing down the rain of fire upon these evil politicians and Templars. And I'm very worried that as they move forward, they're going to continue to streamline the game, continue to try and add features that aren't really needed, continue to focus more on replicating the combat and the traversal, as opposed to really delving into an environment. And maybe they've lost focus, or maybe I'm crazy. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments of what you love about Assassin's Creed, or where you think the series is going. But for me, like, it was that real blending of mechanics with a sense of place and a sense of a character that made AC2 so much fun for me, and really elevated it to one of my favorite games this generation. And when I played Assassin's Creed 3, I think that was the most overhyped game of 2012. And I think that it was a disaster story-wise. I think that what it added was inconsequential. And I think what it lost in the process of it advancing to this American time period was substantial. They lost the climbing enjoyment. Like, for me, that was the biggest loss. Was no longer did I care about exploring. No longer did I care about climbing. I felt that it was very boring in that sense. And I feel like the more that they went towards Desmond, even though that should have been grand and great, the worse that the game got. Because everything was just so generic. I actually kind of like Assassin's Creed 1's Desmond segments, because it's so weird. And it is sort of boring, but it's so weird. It's not like anything else, really. You don't really... It's just a strange experience, but I think that was so cool. Just like the glyphs were cool, solving the little puzzles were cool, and they kind of stripped away what I feel were the best parts of Assassin's Creed, and instead made this game that was so much more about media attention and hey, let's talk about George Washington and let's America and freaking Revolutionary War and Tea Party and blah blah blah, and get everybody to be like, yeah, this game is for everybody in America. And in the meantime, they lost what made Assassin's Creed special. And the fact that they're annualizing the numbered sequels, the fact that they're keeping it, they're not taking a chance. They're not taking a risk. They could have gone to Egypt. They could have gone to China. They could have gone to the modern-day London. I don't know. They could have done a number of things that would have said, okay, they really are thinking kind of ahead of the curve. They're really trying to either get back on track or at least differentiate themselves. And again, we had 3 games very much like Assassin's Creed 2, and I'm worried that we're going to get another game very much like Assassin's Creed 3. And supposedly this team has been working on this game for 3 years, but Assassin's Creed 3 was also under a long development cycle, and I thought that turned out quite poorly. So I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Frankly, I'm much more excited for Watch Dogs from Ubisoft than I am for Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, or whatever the heck that means, and why it's significant, God only knows. But the dude has long blonde hair, so maybe it's going to be in with the ladies. And he has guns, which is a hot topic everywhere. And it's islands and Caribbean, and I don't know, maybe they'll have a cameo by Jack Sparrow and just go completely off the rails. I don't know. We'll find out more soon. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button, add your favorites, show it some love. I've been thinking about Assassin's Creed since the 3rd game came out last year, and I'm glad that I'm able to finally put my thoughts into video form for your ears. Till next time, guys and girls, let me know what you think in the comments below. Drink some hot chocolate, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you all later.